What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I'm talking about my other most anticipated release for the weekend. I am talking about the latest offering from An Abstract Illusion, The Sleeping City. Also came out on October 17th, this time on Willowtip Records. This is the band's third studio full-length overall. For those who don't know, this is a Swedish progressive death metal band, or some people call them atmospheric death metal. I think progressive death metal is more appropriate. And, well, I got into this band with their last album, Woe, which was a phenomenal album. I believe it was pretty high on my year-end list back in 2022. It was phenomenal. And I was eager to hear what this one was going to sound like, because I became a fan of this band courtesy of their second album, Woe. And I'll say this album is a little bit different than what I was expecting, because with the album Woe, it was almost like they combined the beauty and like the lush atmosphere of like old Opeth, but adding a lot of brutal moments in there. Like there are times where it would remind me of bands like Decapitated, for example. This album gets even more lush, but dare I say it gets a lot more chaotic at times in terms of like all the crazy changes going on. Well, let's go ahead and talk about that. So we kick things off with Black Murmur, and immediately you get like synths and like guitars and drums and polyrhythms that I would argue sound closer to Between the Buried and Me than anything else. Like I will say a good chunk of this album I can tell almost sound like they were taking notes from bands like Between the Buried and Me and even Dream Theater and kind of bring that into their sound a little bit more. Because even the clean melody that shows up after you get these cool polyrhythms kind of feels a little bit closer to Dream Theater, but you do get some like cool atonal melodies. But I also love the groove on this opening track, where it definitely kind of feels more like classic prog, like Rush, Yes, King Crimson, old Genesis. Like there's a little bit of that veneer coming into play on a good chunk of this album in terms of like all the different structure shifts. And hell, I'll even say it's flat out whimsical, this opening track, and then you get these like real soothing clean vocals, which clean vocals weren't the main draw on Woe, but here, the clean vocals, when they do come in, they kind of act as a great complement to the harsh vocals, which I will say the harsh vocals on here definitely remind me a lot of Tommy Rogers from BT Bam, I will say, because it's very like, it's like a big like, kind of that middle ground between like a hardcore roar and a death metal roar. It's kind of in that like middle zone, which I do like about Tommy Rogers' vocals, and I definitely appreciate that with the vocals, the harsh vocals on here. Occasionally he'll get a little bit lower to kind of make it sound even more straight up death metal. But hell, here on this opening track you even get like really cool twangy riffs, triplet rhythms, tremolo riffs to kind of really bring out the death metal, and then even keyboard leads and blast beats, which I'll go ahead and say lead work. Gorgeous lead work, whether it be on the guitars or the keyboards. And the keyboards don't overpower everything. The keyboards act as a perfect complement to the guitars and the bass perfectly well. Then we move into a track like No Dreams Beyond Empty Horizons, which was one of the shorter songs, and I use that word loosely because this album is a little over an hour long, but this track, No Dreams Beyond Empty Horizons, kind of has a little more of a somber quality, like the way it starts with the acoustic guitars and the synths. It definitely gives off a darker, more like sorrowful vibe before it does go into like triplet chugs with a lot of quirk to it and blast beats. And also, one of the pretty much about half of this album you get violin and cello, which immediately, when I hear the violin and everything, definitely made me think of bands like Ne Obliviscaris. When you listen to Ne Obliviscaris and how Tim Charles uses that violin to add more melody and atmosphere, it's so beautiful. And it definitely works here with An Abstract Illusion. After all, this band's often compared to Ne Obliviscaris to a degree, but also Opeth and other bands along those lines. But here on this track, after the violins come in, you get a lot of great clean guitar play and bass melodies. Also, the vocal rounds, like the vocal harmonies, definitely give it like a Gentle Giant kind of vibe, which I do respect Gentle Giant's like vocal rounds, how they do it, to showcase that, hey, that you get more like good singing out of the vocalist and perhaps any other guests or the other musicians who can actually complement the front man. But man, even the leads are here are harmonized and are soaring, and even keyboard melodies galore before out of nowhere vicious tremolo on top of a gallop, and even the Dirk blast beat, like Dirk Verbeuren blast beats. But I also like how it ends on a somber note with the keyboards, the violin, clean guitars, and even another lead. Like a geyser every erupting, or ever erupting. I think I had a typo when I made the notes. I'd have to fix that. But regardless, more ambience, but it gets into furious drums and like evil open string riffs and triplet blasting and chug. Like, probably the most brutal song on the album. Like, this one definitely feels like it could have been on Whoa, as it just gets evil and heavy and evil tremolo riffs, but you still get some like great clean vocal harmonies. Hell, even the melodies that come up here remind me a little bit of Mastodon to a degree. And I even love the keyboards carrying the melody as well as the violin and cello. And then we go into a track like Frost Flower, which is one of the longer tracks on here as well. Or no, it's Emmett, the one I'm thinking about, the following track. But anyways, Frost Flower, again, ambience with synth melodies and drums building, and again, very somber, very dark. Most of the song is clean vocals, and it definitely has some Emerson, Lake, and Palmer vibes with some of the synth melodies, even Dream Theater. But again, violin and cello complementing everything beautifully, acoustic guitars. But you still get like big like riff progressions to kind of feel like you're being released, like you've been set free from the flock, like you're a bird set free and off to fly in the sky kind of vibe. But now the song Emmett, which was the longest track of the album at over 11 minutes, acoustic and clean melodies to start off as the clean vocals come into the fray before you get like tremolo melodies into triplet chugs and dissonance. Like, dissonance comes into play here and even on the title track, but back to Emmett, polyrhythms come back, and then you get blast beats, keyboards, and I love the dynamic shifts that come here and there on this track, really the whole album, even a bass groove. Silverfields, it was a short interlude with like keyboards and ambience. It was done to kind of lead out of Emmett into the title track to close the album. And the title track, I'd say, is one of the more proggy songs on here. I mean, the whole album's proggy, but this gets extra proggy. Polyrhythms, soaring melodic progressions, dissonance, synths, clean melodies, but you still get like your big death metal riffing and big tremolo and groove, blast beats, beautiful piano parts, huge dynamic shifts, and wonderful soloing. Holy crap, like, how this band is able to combine all this stuff into something palatable for the human ear is really a challenge, and they managed to face that challenge head on and beat it like a boss battle in like Super Mario World or something like that. So production-wise, it's lush, it's lavish, but it does get really hefty when it has to. As far as any complaints go, I'm hard-pressed to find any. I don't know if I like this album as much as Woe. I'd have to listen to them both over and over, back to back to kind of really see. But I will say, this is a phenomenal follow-up. And even though I might like Woe more, I'm still giving this 5 out of 5. We have a first in this year. Back-to-back 5s when it comes to reviews. Corner yesterday, and now an Abstract Illusion today getting 5 stars. I mean, this might be the prog death metal album of the year. Neck and neck with In Mourning. But yeah, this is wonderfully crafted music once again. I mean, this band just continues to push themselves. So if you are a fan of, I would say, old Opeth, BT Bam, Dream Theater, Ne Obliviscaris, hell, even Black Crown Initiate, and hell, even old school prog like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and King Crimson. Check this out. This is phenomenal. Unbelievable. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.